In our main event, Tachi Palace Fights is set to crown a heavyweight champion. Ready to battle for the throne are heavy-handed fighters Mitchell Sipe and Chris Lewis. Fighting out of Bakersfield, California, Mitchell Sipe stands ready to write his name in the TPF history books. Undefeated in his journey, he looks to claim victory once again over a familiar foe. If victorious tonight, Sipe will prove he's as good as it gets inside the TPF heavyweight division. Standing in his way will be Chris Lewis, a game competitor. Lewis will take the data he gained facing Sipe late last year. Tonight, he returns ready to avenge himself, while also capturing the heavyweight crown. Coming up next, it's our main event of the evening, as Mitchell No Dice Sipe meets Chris the Law Lewis. This is Tachi Palace Fights. They call him the Law, and for good reason. He's a correctional officer in the Fresno County Jail. He makes the walk tonight 2-1 on his pro record. He was victorious throughout his amateur career, compiling a 6-0 record, and one of those wins came by way of choke over the man he faces tonight, Mitchell Sipe, a guillotine just 1 minute into their amateur contest, but that win was avenged by Sipe late last year in a heavyweight tournament. This is the payoff of a 4-man tournament. Originally, Mitchell Sipe was supposed to fight Muhammad Usman. Usman was injured, delaying the fight, and then ultimately signed with another promotion, opening the door for Chris Lewis to get back in the cage with Mitchell Sipe. That fight took place in November, and it was a third-round knockout victory for Sipe, but Lewis had some moments in that fight where he was able to control Sipe, relying on his wrestling game, but ultimately, late in the fight, got caught and put out. Now tonight, it is technically their second fight as professionals, but it's the rubber match overall, and this time, it's for the TPF Heavyweight Championship. The first ever heavyweight title will be awarded here tonight inside the bingo hall, Tachi Palace Hotel and Casino, and this win would be incredibly big for Chris Lewis. He wants to lead this division into the future, defend the title, and as we mentioned before, when you get a title put on you in this promotion, ultimately it opens up doors. You fight for the UFC, you fight for Bellator, and Chris Lewis has his sights set on those shows. He hopes to punch his ticket tonight by avenging that loss to Mitchell Sipe and capturing Tachi Palace Fights gold. The Law, Chris Lewis, ready to go to work in our main event inside the TPF cage. Formerly No Dice, now known as the Sniper, the 21-year-old Mitchell Sipe tries to capture TPF gold here tonight, 3-0 as a pro, 2-1 as an amateur. Again, the only loss of his career came as an amateur to Chris Lewis. Has a wrestling base, really mixes up his stances, known to primarily throw as a southpaw, but you cannot get comfortable with this man on his feet. I mentioned the wrestling base, but he fights like a Muay Thai fighter, mixing up his kicks and punches. Very dangerous in the clinch. Very dangerous all-around boxing skills. Trains in Oxnard, California with the same camp that produced Fernando Vargas. He was originally scheduled again to face Muhammad Usman, but finds himself in the cage tonight with a familiar foe. He was victorious over Lewis in the first round of this 4-man tournament, and these guys know each other incredibly well. The first fight was only a minute long. The second fight came in the professional ranks, was about 12 minutes long. And it's going to be interesting to see what adjustments they make. Sipe had some trouble with Lewis in the wrestling department early in their fight, but ultimately came back and got the victory. And both of these men, when you look at the way that they won their fights, they did so in dominating fashion. For Mitchell Sipe, he was able to knock out Chris Lewis. For Chris Lewis, when he won as an amateur, he was able to choke Mitchell Sipe. So one has a submission victory, the other has a KO victory. And I think the thing to sort of keep your eye on, Andre, is both of these men have won, and they've done so in decisive fashion. Their confidence, I think, is going to be the real key to this victory, and they got to make sure that they get their games going and get their games going early.
Yeah, well, I mean, any fight confidence is a factor, but especially when you have two young, hard-hitting, athletic dudes who have already fought once before. They have something to prove. There's a prestigious belt on the line. I mean, you got to come in and know that you're the man, that you're the harder hitter, that you're the smarter fighter, and you got to get in and impose that early.
The first TPF heavyweight title is on the line. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape for our main event of the evening. Mitchell Sipe, 21 years old, about 9 days until his 22nd birthday. Chris Lewis, 30 years old. Both men stand 6 feet 3 inches tall, 247 the weight for the law. Chris Lewis, 239 for Mitchell Sipe. For our main event and championship introductions, here's Tyson Johnson.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the finals of the Tachi Palace Fights Heavyweight Tournament. This bout will be 5-minute rounds in the heavyweight division. This bout is being brought to you by the law offices of Jonathan Rooker. Ladies and gentlemen, you can check him out at jonathanrooker.com. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the main event of the evening. This bout for the first ever Tachi Palace Fights Heavyweight Championship of the world. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner. This fighter stands 6 feet 3 inches tall. He weighed in at 246 pounds. He represents Team Buhawe with a mixed martial arts record of 3 wins and 1 defeat. He hails from Fresno, California. Please welcome Chris "The Law" Lewis. And his opponent for this championship event out of the red corner. He stands 6 feet 2 inches tall. He weighed in at 242 pounds. He represents Team Adam Flores with an undefeated record of 3 wins and 0 defeats. He hails from Bakersfield, California. Please welcome Mitchell, the Sniper Sipe. Your referee for this bout will be Mark Lawley.
Back. Protect yourself at all times. Follow my instructions at all times. Touch gloves and let's have a good, clean fight.
Heavyweights in the cage, the law Chris Lewis, meeting the sniper Mitchell Sipe. Referee for this contest, Mark Lawley. TJ DeSantis, Andre Feely, Bingo Hall, Tachi Palace Hotel and Casino, Lemoore, California. Heavyweight title on the line.
Right away, the clinch and the uppercut.
Sipe extremely confident. It was Lewis that got tagged in the last fight, and Mitchell Sipe wants to test that chin early, back in the clinch. Both of these guys come from a wrestling base. Lewis has been wrestling since he was 4 years old. He's gonna wanna try to get that wrestling going because the striking action there, very furious and fast early in this contest, and we see Chris Lewis trying to slow that down.
Yeah, Lewis has more wrestling experience, so both have a wrestling base. I think obviously you see the power when Sipe throws. You see that everything he throws hurts. Everything he throws can end or change a fight, and I think it's a good idea for Lewis, who also has a lot of power, but maybe have the edge in wrestling to at least start this fight out with a little bit of this grind, a little bit of this wearing his opponent down and neutralizing that explosiveness and that power.
In boxing, they say body shots are money in the bank. In mixed martial arts, I think what Chris Lewis is doing right now is also money in the bank. This is a 5-round fight, 5-minute rounds, and the more you can wear on your opponent, the better you're going to be able to maybe steal his heart later in the fight.
Right, yeah, it's like that that analogy Joe Rogan used. You play the old school fighting games like Street Fighter, and the little leg kicks, they take down the life bar. So maybe he's not going for the knockout right now, but he's slowly draining the life bar of his opponent. Maybe he's like sort of draining the life bar from his opponent, that later on when these shots really count, 3rd, 4th, 5th championship rounds, these big knockout punches present themselves.
Mark Lawley separates these two men. Yeah, obviously, Mitchell Sipe enjoys that because he can go back to work, but this is a 5-round fight, championship affair. I think you let these fighters dictate the pace and dictate where this fight's going to take place, but right now, Chris Lewis is trying to keep the lights on. Mitchell Sipe trying to go to work with some hammer fists. He's definitely in trouble, is Chris Lewis. Sipe inside control. Not where Lewis wants to be. Short little elbows here for Mitchell Sipe.
I would agree. I would let these fighters fight the way they want to fight, especially in the opening round. We have 25 minutes of this fight, and these fighters' careers are essentially on the line. This is a make or break fight right now. This is the biggest fight of both of these men's careers. Let them fight the way they want to fight.
See the dynamic striking offense here on display of Mitchell Sipe, now back in on the clinch.
I'm incredibly impressed. Not just the power. A lot of heavyweights have power, but Mitchell Sipe is moving like a very athletic man. It's not easy to jump through the air and throw all that weight around. He's moving really well. He's moving very fast. He's landing accurately, and his confidence, the confidence he has. I saw him at one point put both his hands down and look at his opponent. Look at Lewis. In a fight where any punch can knock you out, the confidence you have to put your hands on your waist.
Look at the posture here of Chris Lewis. He's firing back, but he has to respect every move that Mitchell Sipe makes. Now he's going in on a takedown. Nice sprawl. Now to the back goes Mitchell Sipe. Left hands, right hands, trying to pass the guard. Lewis in trouble.
It looked like something's wrong. It looks like there's something wrong.
Oh, they throw the towel. Lawley doesn't see it. The corner of Lewis is thrown to the towel. This fight is over. This fight is over. Now Mark Lawley is clued in. Mitchell Sipe, the new heavyweight champion. Unbelievable.
And you could see that something went wrong. I believe when Sipe sprawled, it put Lewis's shoulder out of place. You could see that he didn't horn his hands up to stop Sipe taking the back. He didn't do really any defense. I believe the sprawl. I believe the sprawl popped his shoulder out.
Yeah, it looks like you are correct there. Chris Lewis flat on his back, but Mitchell Sipe is the new champion. We see Lewis getting some attention there. His shoulder could be out here. Walk us through this right here.
Yeah, it looks like there's something goes wrong. You can see something's wrong. His hands don't come up to stop the shot. And you can see that there's just something wrong. You can see it in his whole posture. His corner tries to throw the towel in, but
he's trying to tell the ref that he's out, and Mark Lawley just doesn't hear him. This is really unfortunate. The towel thrown in. Lawley doesn't know until Mitchell Sipe stops fighting.
And honestly, respect to Sipe for stopping, for having the awareness of stopping, because it's not his job. It's really not his job. But
there it is again. You can see right there that left shoulder injured.
And it doesn't look, I mean, you see guys hang on to double legs a lot longer, but we're talking about two massive guys moving so explosively. I mean,
this is incredibly unfortunate to watch. Chris Lewis is trying to tell the referee that he's out, that his shoulder's out, that he needs to get out of here. The corner threw in the towel. Lawley has his back to the corner. Everyone is trying to get his attention. And finally, Mitchell Sipe calls off his own offense.
And I'm wondering, I saw Sipe look at someone and say, "You're next," but I didn't see who he was talking to. He pointed, I swore he pointed at someone and said, "You're next." But I don't know who he was talking to.
Lewis back to his feet. Here's the offensive output here.
Yeah, just about everybody in the arena was trying to let the referee know. I'm guilty. I stood up as well. But there's really not anyone. There's really nothing anyone can do.
It's not funny to laugh at, but literally Mark Lawley is the only man in this room that didn't know the fight was over.
Yeah. I mean, it's and now that we see that it's easier to take a sigh of relief and kind of chuckle at the situation because Chris Lewis was able to stand up and walk out. I think he may have a shoulder injury, but things could have been much worse. Things could have been a lot worse, especially with these guys that are so big and there's so much power.
We wish Chris Lewis the best, but tonight and the title belong to Mitchell Sipe. To crown our champion, here's Tyson Johnson.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 3 minutes, 37 seconds into round number 1, your winner and the first ever Tachi Palace Fights Heavyweight Champion of the World, Mitchell, the Sniper Sipe.
All right, I'm here with the new heavyweight king, Mitchell Sipe. Obviously, Chris Lewis was hurt. When did you become aware that this fight was over? Because ultimately, you were the one that stopped it.
Right when it started. Come on, man. Come on. But he's a good person, you know, but he wanted a rematch, so there it is. The first time he beat me when I was an amateur, I was 18 years old, man. I'm in my prime now.
You look fantastic on the feet. Your offensive game on display here in multiple ways. What's next for you? This title has propelled a lot of guys to the big show, to the Ultimate Fighting Championship, to Bellator. Where do you go next?
As of right now, it's all up to my managers. I don't know. It's up to them. Whatever they want me to do, I do it.
There we go. One more time. Your new heavyweight king, Mitchell Sipe.
Mitchell Sipe coming out furious, really had a point to prove, really came out and had bad intentions with everything he threw. Best recovery to Chris Lewis, but Mitchell Sipe really came in here with bad intentions and seized the opportunity.
An incredibly confident 21-year-old Mitchell Sipe. He'll celebrate his 22nd birthday here in about a week, and he will do so as the heavyweight champion. Hard to argue what could be next for him. It could be a big show. It could be a title defense here. The bottom line is Mitchell Sipe is firing on all cylinders and is still a 21-year-old young man. This guy very much could be one of the next big things as he moves forward in his heavyweight career.
Oh, undoubtedly. You and I could be sitting here talking in 5 years about him challenging Stipe Miocic or someone, you know, like, and we'll say, oh, we called this when he fought, when he won the, you know, like, this is very much someone that you could probably count on adding to the lineage of Tachi Palace fighters who have moved on to do big things in the sport.
Mitchell Sipe getting it done in our main event. It was another great night of action. TPS showing why it's one of the best promotions in all of mixed martial arts. We started with the catchweight contest. Garrett Marks and Fabian Luivano went to war. Marks gave Luivano everything he could, but ultimately it is Luivano that walks away with the unanimous decision. Carlos Hernandez took on Ryan Atterbury, and Hernandez got on top, got the rear naked choke, and he got the tap in round number 1. Then it was bantamweights taking center stage. Matt Perez and Jose Avalos. Perez was in business early, but it was Avalos that was able to make some adjustments. He got this takedown, he got on top and got this arm bar. Very nice win for Jose Avalos. Then we saw Diamond Templeton meet Isidro Gutierrez. Templeton in his second pro fight in front of his hometown here, and he looked like a seasoned vet. Rear naked choke goes the way of Diamond Templeton in round number 1. Then we saw a fantastic fight between two welterweights. Augie Nurgui from Mongolia taking on the TPF stable and Buddy Wallace. And while there was a big experience factor here, Nurgui looked like he was the one who had 20-some fights. But Buddy Wallace was able to defend. It goes the distance, and we see a majority draw. Nurgui lost a point, and that ultimately lost him the fight. Super heavyweights took center stage. We saw Van Palacio take on Rudolph Buendia. Palacio, known for his chin, but he was dropped and then submitted on the floor. The short notice, Rudy Buendia getting it done. Then we saw Joe Neal take on Nolan Hernandez. We saw actually Armando Espinoza take on Art Hernandez here. Now we see Baby Ray Cervera in our co-main event. This was a very fun fight with Art Arciniega making some adjustments after getting cut and ultimately winning a split decision. Our main event, Mitchell Sipe, Chris Lewis. It was the rematch we've been waiting for. And Lewis was not able to really stop the strikes here early, and he tried to get this fight to the floor, but was injured doing so. The corner throws in the towel. Mitchell Sipe calls it off, and he is the new Tachi Palace Fights Heavyweight Champion. Mitchell Sipe getting it done. For Andre Feely, I'm TJ DeSantis. This has been Tachi Palace Fights.